Hello students, welcome back to the channel Maths Insider. Today's topic is about quadratic equation, the concept on the quadratic equation. So this is the fourth chapter which we're going to start. So what you will learn from this video are we'll learn about the concept of the quadratic equation, how the quadratic equation looks like, what are the important terms in the quadratic equation. Then we will see the standard form of quadratic equation. So again, how we will convert a given equation to the standard form, and from there we can able to identify whether this equation is quadratic or not. Then solving some examples about the given equations, and then we'll go through quick revision. So this chapter is very important, so stick to this series of upcoming videos on this quadratic equation, and it's very scoring problems which will often comes in the exam. I hope you will enjoy this video. So let's get started. Now, so we first need to understand the concept of quadratic equation. What is the quadratic equation, and what is the nature of the equation? So a quadratic equation is an equation in which the highest power of the variable. So a quadratic equation is an equation in which the highest power of the variable is 2. So we have already learned in the polynomial, the degree of, or in the degree of the polynomial, the highest power of the given variable will identify what kind of equation it is. So for the case of quadratic equation, the degree of the polynomial is 2. So this particular equation is called either a binomial or a quadratic equation. So in terms of polynomial, it is binomial, but whenever we are just try to identify in the form of equation, this is a quadratic equation. So example, x square plus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. So this is a quadratic equation. So nature of this equation is quadratic. Now here the highest power of the variable is, that is, here the variable is x. So the highest power of the variable x is 2. Hence this particular equation is a quadratic equation. The highest power is 2. And also the above equation is a quadratic equation because the highest power of the variable x is 2. Now, standard form of quadratic equation. Now we learn the standard form. So how we can write any quadratic equation into its standard form. So the standard form of the quadratic equation is expressed as ax square plus bx plus c, where a and b are coefficients of the variable x and c is a constant. So combinations of these variables, coefficients and the constant will give you the quadratic form of equation. Here a, b, c are also constants, and a should not be equal to 0. So this is the most important thing we have to keep in mind for a quadratic equation, that a should not be equal to 0. So if a becomes equal to 0, then let's see what happens to the given equation. So in that case, it will not be a quadratic equation. Let's see with an example. Or say ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0 is a standard equation. Now if a becomes equal to 0, then the equation becomes 0 into x square plus bx plus c equal to 0. So the term x square will vanish. It will not be there because any times with 0 becomes 0. So we have only bx plus c equal to 0. So here the highest power is 1 and not the 2. So this becomes a linear equation and not a quadratic equation. So from here it is clear that a should not be equal to 0. Now identifying the coefficient. Now let us take an example. Let us take an example, say 2x square plus 3x minus 5 equal to 0. Now here a is equal to 2, b is equal to 3. So these are the coefficients of the variable x which are associated with the variable x. These are the coefficients, and c is equal to minus 5, which is the constant. So that is how we identify the coefficients and the constants of the given quadratic equation. Now we'll take a few examples and we'll try to identify whether they are quadratic equations or they are non-quadratic. Now let's take the first example, x square minus 4x plus 4 equal to 0. Is this a quadratic equation? Yes, this is a quadratic equation by nature. How we can identify that? We can identify using the following: as a is equal to 1, that is a is not equal to 0. This is the first condition, so that means it is fulfilled. B anyway is minus 4 and c is 4. This is first condition is a is not equal to 0. And what is the highest power? The highest power of the given equation, or highest power of the variable of the given equation, x is equal to 2. So these two together will identify that this is a quadratic equation. Let's take example 2, 3x square equal to 12. Now is this a quadratic equation or not? We have to identify. So first what we will do, if you see this equation here, 3x square equal to 12. So first we need to write this above equation in a standard form. So that is why the standard form plays an important role. So in order to do that, what we have to do, we have to move the 12 from right hand side to left hand side. So we have 3x square minus 12 equal to 0. Now we have to identify the coefficients and the constants and also the power. Now compare the standard form with ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. So what we can see, a is equal to 3. Here a is equal to 3. So that means a is not equal to 0. And we have, and as there is x square, b is equal to 0 as there is no x to the power 1, and c is equal to minus 12. So we have b is equal to 0 and we have c equal to minus 12. So in this case it is satisfying the conditions of the quadratic equation. So since the highest power of the variable x is 2 and also a is not equal to 0, so this is a quadratic equation. Now we'll take the third example, x cube plus 2x plus 1 equal to 0. Is this a quadratic equation? Here the highest power of the variable x is 3. So clearly this shows this is not a quadratic equation. So this is not a quadratic equation, rather this is a cubic equation. This is a cubic equation. Now some important points what we have seen: the highest power of the variable, the highest power of the quadratic equation is 2. That is the most important thing. Then we have equation must be in a standard form, that is it should be always written as ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. This is the second important point. And a should not be equal to 0. So this is the important thing in a given quadratic equation. Now where we use this quadratic equation, the application of quadratic equation. Now quadratic equation has wide applications, like for example in the area problem, whenever we will solve the problem related to the geometric area, like area of a triangle, area of a rectangle, speed and time problem also involves the quadratic equation to solve the speed and time problem, and there are various physical applications. So physics related problems, we can also use the quadratic equation. So these are all the applications of quadratic equation. So let's now have a quick revision. So first we have learned about what is a quadratic equation. So quadratic equation is represented by ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0, where a should not be equal to 0 and the highest power of the variable should be 2. So these are the two important conditions for a quadratic equation. To represent a quadratic equation, always represent the equation in a standard form of the quadratic equation. This is again another important aspect. So like for example, x square is 2x plus 5. We are moving 2x and 5 from the right hand side to the left hand side, then it becomes x square minus 2x minus 5 equal to 0. So this is the standard form of the quadratic equation. So in the next video we will going to learn about the types of quadratic equation. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, please leave it on the comment section. There are more such videos coming forward. So if you like this video, please share with your friends and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you.